All right, it is 6 p.m. We will call the Sartell City Council meeting for Monday, November 8th to order. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. First order of business is agenda review and adoption. Take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Open forum, public comment. We have, I believe, 4 registered tonight. First up is Diane Bregelman. Just a reminder for all participants that are all speakers tonight that we do have 3 minutes. It'll be on the clock up here, and unfortunately, we do have to stop at 3 minutes. Thanks.
You're acquainted with me, and you know I'm Diane Bregelman from River Oaks Lane. I come here frequently, always to talk about River Oaks Lane. For whatever it's worth, they're working really hard over there, pushing and moving a lot of dirt. That's the main thing. A steam shovel much closer to me than, or well, that's an old-fashioned term. A big thing with a shovel right outside my window where we left, making a lot of noise and shaking the earth and whatever. But the main reason I came was just to clarify something, and I know you can't respond to me, but maybe after the meeting, if there's an indication that that would be a good idea. We called and asked Scott, who kindly provided us with the specifics, some of the specifics about River Oaks Lane, which you're considering tonight. So my concerns or questions, maybe is a better word, is about the roadway, expanding it, and I understand why that has to be. It mentions the stormwater and curb and gutter and sidewalks and all kinds of things like that. So my concern is it says part of it's going to be paid by the developers and part of it's going to be paid by the city of Sartell. So does that mean there will be assessments on people who live there for those things, or is the city coming up with that from another fund? And that's all I can say I'm suspicious of, but I hope that's not the case. Even if it is, we're still the Sauk Township, so I'd be hard pressed to figure out how we're gonna have to pay for it. But I will tell you that the ones who are Sartell residents are not gonna be happy if they're gonna get assessed for that after all that's gone on. And that's all I have to say, so thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Next up is Jim.
My name is Jim Bregelman, my wife Diane, and I just have a couple of things I'd like to say, and it has nothing to do with tonight's meeting. But my concern is still, and always has been for a long time, the purported car wash installation next to our residence, and I still don't know if that's still something that's possible, or are they just toying with me, or what's going on, because we really don't know what's happening. We've heard a lot of discussion about it over the last few months. One of the questions I have is, considering a conditional use permit, I know that has been addressed, or at least talked about briefly here. I'm not sure under what pretenses it was, but I heard it talked about. This would be an important issue for Diane and myself when that issue comes up for discussion with the developers, and I don't know if it has already been up for discussion with them for a conditional use permit for that car wash. From what I understand, that's required for that particular kind of car wash. And I don't have any information about what the city ordinances are or rulings are regarding a conditional use permit. Perhaps I could get that online, but I just haven't had the time yet to do that. So if anybody could help me with that, I would appreciate that. Because that would be our last chance for Diane and myself to receive some kind of concession if we could stop that with a vote of no conditional use permit, because we know, and you know as well as I do, that there are plenty of commercial tenants out there who would really like a spot in this development. Anything that would be better than this car wash, something that is quiet, something that we can live in peace with. If you grant a conditional use permit, what you're telling my wife and I is that what you don't want by your back door is okay for us. And for some reason, that's not right. So that's all I want to do, is to introduce to you tonight. That's my concern. And I'll wait for a response perhaps in 2 weeks. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Next up, we have John Wood. And I'll assume you're Holly? Yeah. All right.
Hi, I'm John Wood, city resident of Sartell here, reside at Sartell MHP. And what this is about, and Holly will explain why. Okay, I am the acting current president of the Sartell Park Residents Association, and we're having a residents association meeting. Okay, and we'd like to invite the city council members as well as the honorable mayor, as well as the police chief and fire marshal or whoever else would be interested in coming. And I reserved an appointment. We've had the meeting before at Sartell Community Center. It's on Friday, November 19th. The time will be from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. It's either that or I could have the evening before Thanksgiving or the night after Thanksgiving, and I waived that. It will be at the Liberty 1 and 2 suites. We will be having non-alcoholic beverages and snacks. Okay, and we also invited a representative from Minnesota State Attorney General's office and Governor Walz's office. And there was a couple other places too, Minnesota Department of Health. But anyway, we'd really appreciate if you do show up. It's about our park residents. There's 370 of us, and we are active in the community, and we do support Sartell. So I'll now turn it over to Holly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I get the full 3 minutes too?
Yeah. I had you down as separate, so that's,
Oh, cool. All right. Well, my name is Holly. I'm an LPN. I am in RN school, and I am the acting vice president of Sartell Residents Association. I am one of the 373 plus residents that live in Sartell MHP. I've lived there since June of 2006. I've seen many changes throughout the years. We have established a residents association to fight against the high rent charges, the water meter rentals, the overcharged utilities, and many other issues. We also represent Sartell. We want a safe and affordable living. And as the acting vice president and as the acting president of the Residents Association, we invite you to come and talk to us. Let us tell you how bad things have gotten. We live in Sartell, we shop here, we pay taxes, we work, our kids go to school here. We are a part of the community. Residents are scared as management has been threatening, bullying, coercing, intimidating, and playing favorites. I watched as a family was evicted and forced from their home, but the other resident who was a huge problem is still living in the park, no problems. This park was supposed to be affordable living for low-income households, and for the many residents on fixed incomes, paying $550+ a month, plus their other utilities, they're having a hard time keeping a roof over their heads. This is why we are inviting you to our residents meeting and to our homes. We can give lists of people that want to talk to you and speak about these issues. This is happening in your community, your city. Please stand with us to help us go against corporate taking advantage of us and taking your fines and ignoring you. They've done that multiple times. Every time there's an issue, they'll go, oh yeah, we'll fix that. and then they'll do it just enough to get them off the back, and then it goes away. Usually when you guys pay your sewer charges, you get your January sewer charge, February, and that's what you pay all year long. This summer, every time I watered my garden before the ban, I paid sewer charges on water that went into the ground. That's happening to everybody. We don't get, they have their amount that they buy their water and sewer from you guys, and they charge us something else. So we're not even sure we're being charged the same amount as what they're getting charged. So they're potentially overcharging us on those utilities. Lighting is an issue. They've had mobile homes sitting on the side of the road since like March. They're still there. That causes an issue with traffic if there's emergency vehicles that need to come in. We ask you to come. We invite you to come. Please come talk to us. Listen to our people. This is our homes. This is our community too. We ask you to come and listen to us, talk to us. Thank you so much for your time, and you guys have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, next on the agenda is the approval of city council minutes for October 25th, regular meeting and special meeting. Take a motion on those.
I'll move that.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Those carry. Consent agenda items, we have A through J. I guess I'll pull item D. If we can maybe just hit on the assessment on that.
And then I'll pull item C, please.
C. And then item F, and I think it's just more of a clerical update on that. Are there any others? I have C, D, and F. If not, I'll look for a motion to approve A through J with the exception of C, D, and F. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Again, we're approving A through J with the exception of C, D, and F. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item C.
I just want to expand a little bit more of the discussion on item C and the intersection study for that light. I'd like to make sure that we encourage kind of a review of Pinecone in general. There seems to be a lot of congestion to get on Pinecone in the morning for school traffic and whatnot. I think we're pushing young drivers into challenging positions, trying to merge onto Pinecone when they're late for school or sun in their eyes or whatever. And then also commuter traffic, I think, is trying to cross multiple areas that we're lining up back-to-back bumper traffic. And I know that we've had some incidences with traffic accidents and whatnot. So I just want to make sure that intersection study kind of takes into consideration the traffic flow or lack of breaks in traffic to let people onto the Pinecone during those morning hours. It just seems that we're pushing 16-year-olds and 17-year-old kids to take chances to merge into traffic because the time is ticking. They're not on time to school or behind schedule, and they just seem to, and I've watched it with my daughter driving to school multiple times this year where they just dart into traffic because there's no break in the traffic. So I think a traffic light there would be, a smart move, and I think we should probably look at it, not just that intersection, but how we break the flow of traffic on Pinecone to allow crossing traffic to kind of get into that area, so.
The other intersection I could think about there would be Pinecone Central Park. Is that what you're speaking of?
Yeah, that's the one I'm speaking of, is the one that's probably the most difficult to get out. And then even down by Celebration there, 15th, and then we noticed the roundabout, there's, 6, 7 cars waiting to just merge into the roundabout to get into school, and on 27th. So it's just a lot of traffic on that road, and young, inexperienced drivers, so, safety issue.
Is there thoughts on that? I mean, do we,
I mean, this study is for the intersection of Seventh and Pinecone. A little history on that, and then I'll maybe go back to kind of a broader discussion, but maybe just there's some new council members here since this has been a long discussed intersection, and we almost did a study 3-4 years ago. And it was kind of decided, let's hold off. The high school's moving, that's gonna disturb traffic, and COVID disturbed traffic. So now that all that is kind of the dust has settled from all that, we're bringing it back to the forefront to think about this intersection and, whether it be a stoplight or a roundabout, or, they kind of holistically look at all of those things specific to that intersection. Now, studying the whole corridor itself is certainly, could be considered. It might be a worthwhile exercise. I believe a predecessor to SEH did that in 2015 or 16. Does that sound right? There was a corridor study done a few years before SEH started as your city engineer. So
I think to Tim's point, certainly that intersection's bad. I might say it's gotten better since the school moved, but that's one perspective. I kind of wonder if it doesn't make sense to have the two intersections studied together so that you're not, if we do anything at Pinecone and Seventh, we have to understand the ramifications at Pinecone and Pinecone Central Park, right? If we're not understanding those in conjunction, I just feel like it's gonna be a never-ending battle.
Right, and I think that a break in the flow with a light that we're looking at would definitely benefit, the other intersections along Pinecone, because right now there is no break in traffic, and as kids start to go to school, they're bumper to bumper, and they're not gonna let a gap get in between the car in front of them. They're right on top of each other, and it's a parade. And I think there's, we're just pushing our luck with, people trying to make that merge in from multiple cross streets at a pretty high speed road. 40 miles an hour, and you got people darting out into it. So those two intersections definitely are gonna be tied to, I think maybe the light would add to the break and the ability to let other cars merge in then, cause it's stopping Pinecone flow, but something there has to be kinda looked at as far as the volume or bumper to bumper traffic that we see.
like I said, the agreement in front of you is just for the intersection of Pinecone and Seventh, but to Ryan's point, it probably wouldn't be that much extra cost to kind of add some counts at Pinecone Central Boulevard as well, and, model those two intersections together. If there's an interest in doing that, we can adjust to that. And
I'm not sure it warrants a full another study of that intersection to, double but just be aware that intersection will definitely relate to the rest of the issues down Pinecone, and to take that into consideration.
certainly, and I think that level of effort is a part of this. It's just not the extra counts and the whole different analysis, but certainly two intersections, 70, 100 feet apart or whatever they are, will be kind of part of the higher level analysis there, so.
Okay, thanks.
And like I laid out in the agreement, the intention is to do some traffic counts this fall, because as we know, next summer with the various construction projects, traffic patterns are gonna be disrupted again. Another maybe side ancillary benefit is with the County Road 1 project, we are planning some temporary traffic signals to help alleviate all these traffic patterns. So we'll get kind of a little bit of a trial run, if you will, that will also we've included in the study too, to kind of see how that's functioning, and then ultimately put a bow on the study with some recommendations next fall.
I think with Pinecone closing, or I'm sorry,
County Road 1.
County Road 1 closing, you're gonna see a big congestion in those three intersections by Celebration and Pinecone Park, and, we're, as a city, embracing that, but yeah.
Agreed, and engineering and public works, we're already kind of starting to put our heads together to try to plan for it as best we can, but certainly will be a little bit challenging next summer with the level of construction activity we're seeing. But like I said, we are planning temporary signals at this intersection, Pinecone and Seventh, as well as on the south end near Coburn's 15th Street South. So those two intersections are ones we've kind of identified as key points of getting traffic on from the side streets. So those are included in both of those two projects.
Okay. With that, I guess that's your call.
Council, any other questions? Any other questions on C before Tim unanimously approves it? Seeing none. Tim, you want to make a motion on C?
Sure, I'd like to do that, please.
Is there a second to Tim's motion? Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Item D, Scott, if you wouldn't mind just hitting on that 56,000 and offering clarity on that.
Sure. So, again, we just have the supplemental letter agreement, which is the design agreement with SEH and the city. I'm actually gonna turn it over to John to maybe explain a little bit more detail to the road and the width and things like that, the city requirements of the road. As far as the 56,000 right now, we're in the design phase, so it's early to determine if there's assessments and things like that. So majority is contractor-based with the current developer, but then there'll be that 56,000, which right now, again, is just too soon to determine if that'll be assessed, it'll be covered by the city. So I think once John is further into that design, then we can have that discussion, which will come back to council as any assessment would be gone through council. So I'll let John touch on that as well.
Yeah, as Scott said, this on the agenda is our design agreement to get us started on, kind of the due diligence here related to this, not, or fairly typical with a project like this, a development like this is upgrading some roads in the area to accommodate that. And so that's what we're looking at here is a small section, maybe 350 feet, I think is the rough dimension of River Oaks Lane that would need to be kind of brought up to city standards. That being widening it to 36 feet with curb and gutter and storm sewer. There's some little bit of sewer and water already in place, but certainly we'll have to shift some hydrants and move some things around like that. And so we'll look to get far enough through this design process that we have a better handle on the costs and things like that. And as Scott said, we'd bring it back to the council maybe with a recommendation and then ultimately have a conversation about how the city's share, which is 56,000, gets paid for, whether that be a fund or through assessments.
Great, appreciate that.
Ryan, just as a quick visual, it just came up on your screen. So that's the portion that would be done from a city standard for River Oaks Lane.
And that'll be the portion that we'll retain as a city road. The remainder is gonna be owned by a developer.
Correct.
Okay. Great. Council, any other questions on that?
Could I just ask a couple quick questions? Does it have to be done, or could it just be left as is for now, until the rest of that area would be developed?
I would recommend it be done. That road is from both a width as well as just, kind of pavement quality and standards probably isn't in the best position to handle, this development area. We've talked about, I think most of the traffic is intended to use County Road 1, that right in, right out access. But certainly we'll see some additional traffic here. And then the other opportunity here is this development is kind of spurring the need for the city to upgrade this road. We have the opportunity here for the developers going to pay the lion's share of doing this road now, where if we waited and kind of left it as a liability, it would be entirely in the city's side to deal with it at that point. So in my opinion and my recommendation, it would make sense to upgrade it now as a part of this development agreement.
So I don't think it would be right to assess the property owners, and we can talk about this down the road, but, I think we've caused enough pain and suffering on these people, and then to throw a assessment against their property, it would just be irresponsible. So that's my 2 cents.
Any other questions or comments on item D?
John, do you know at this point what side of the road the sidewalk would be on, or not yet?
I would say not yet. I'll just say not yet. I don't want to speculate and then have to reverse direction. Like I said, we literally haven't really done any of the work related to this yet. So we'll get some distance into it and then we'll be sure to update the council and as well as the neighbors here.
Okay, thank you.
Without anything further, I'd make a motion to approve item D.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Item F, more clerical we had listed the joint planning board location as, government center. I believe they've confirmed community center or virtual.
That's what I was gonna say. Dan Heim actually reached out and he had asked that we just put it as virtual if we're okay with that. It sounds like we've pretty much transitioned to remote.
We've had the discussion on the joint planning board that we'd prefer it in person, but I think they're always gonna, correct me if I'm wrong here, Tim and Jeff, but I think they were always gonna offer it as virtual,
So maybe I could list both of those.
both maybe?
Yeah, just so that we have it documented. I also just noticed after you pulled it, I was just going through and checking. We have the joint planning board meeting listed on here as February 22nd and the 23rd. It's just the 23rd, so I will remove that. It has the one from last year on there, so I'll remove the 22nd and keep the 23rd, and then also at the bottom, write that it's held remotely and also at the community center.
And with that, I'd make a motion to approve item F with the corrections. Any further discussion on that one? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Department reports. Police Department.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening. You have my report before you. I'd be willing to answer any questions you may have. Just on a side note too, the fire chief and I have been meeting with emergency management about, off and on, about a full-scale exercise to be planned in the city for next year. So we're still trying to nail down some dates, and we'll be fully involved in that, invested.
Is that a makeup to the one that got delayed with COVID? Or that was more of a joint? We're supposed to go to Ripley. We did a tabletop?
That was different.
Okay.
Yep, so the third year of our agreement with them has a full-scale exercise involved.
Specific to Sartell.
Correct.
Cool. Any other questions for Chief Hughes? Thank you. Fire Department.
Mayor, members of council, you'll have, find in your packet, the monthly report for fire. October was an extremely busy month. We had not only our open house, which was the first one here, we worked with coordination with PD, we were estimating around 1,000 people that came through there. It was a very good turnout, great event. Above and beyond that, we had tons of kindergartners and different fire prevention activities. We had around 400 kids that came through the public safety facility for tours and fire safety talks, and can't thank our firefighters enough for the time they put in, between the open house and all this above and beyond. So our new platform fire truck is going to be arriving here soon. We went on Tuesday down to Rochester, finish finalizing some equipment for it, and then it'll be coming back here. So we should look forward to seeing our new truck here in town real shortly. Other than that, we business as usual. We've been pretty busy call-wise last month, and if you have any questions, happy to answer them for you.
Any questions for Chief?
I got one. Have we addressed any of the hail storm damage on the building? I guess it's probably for both of you. What's the plan moving forward on that?
John, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I know you've been
I've got all
working-
the numbers.
Yeah,
We just gotta
yep.
get through it. The adjuster I was planning on this week, but he's gone on vacation this week, so we're gonna get together next week on it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. You have my report. Just one other point, reminder, compost last day is Saturday, November 20th is the last day of operation there. So just a reminder to everybody. It was a busy weekend there this last weekend, so I think a lot of people got their stuff done, but weather permitting, the last day is Saturday the 20th. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for Public Works? John, we had gotten an email from a resident about the invasive weed. I'm forgetting the name of it. but-
Buckthorn.
Buckthorn, thank you. I know we take it out of Lions Park just about every year, but.
Lions Park Group does that themselves.
Okay.
The Lions Group does it themselves. I mean, we assist them in it, but they pretty much do it themselves. I mean, we do it along our trails and stuff, but to dive into the woods and, I mean, where do you start, where do you stop?
That's what I was wondering, is it to the point, I don't know much about it, I know, the little I do know about it, the Mississippi River Partners did something with Stearns County a while back to try and get it out of the riverbanks, but is it to the point where it's all over our town that,
Yeah, I mean, Sauk River Regional Park, Northside Park, I mean, we do some mitigation, but, I mean, it's a big job to tackle it all and stay on it.
stay on it, yeah, okay.
Have we ever looked at the goats?
We have not.
There is a program out there.
There is actually, yes.
I think
My
we need-
daughter's got 5 of them, we could probably talk to her.
Let's do that. Let's pen them in and let them go to town.
Thank you.
Thanks. Was that a motion on that, or
Yeah, I'm motioning, bringing goats in.
put them in the roundabouts?
Chickens?
Engineering,
I'll highlight kind of our big 3 projects for next year. Scout and Daler, we have a bid opening scheduled for next week. 19th Avenue should get submitted to MnDOT yet this week for their review, and then we can advertise that one. So probably be bringing that to council for approval. If not the second meeting in November, probably the first meeting in December for that one. And then County Road 1, I believe will go to the state for their review, within the next week or 2 at the very most. So all 3 of those projects are kind of getting where we'll be advertising and opening bids in the very near future here. So with that, I'd answer any of the questions you might have.
any questions for John?
John, what is the anticipated start for each of those projects? I know they're generally, we're talking spring, summer. but-
Yeah, all 3 of them are kind of as weather allows, anywhere from April 15th to May 1st, depending on spring weather patterns.
Okay,
I think County Road 1 will have a phasing identified with it where we'll break it into chunks to somewhat, where the other 2 projects, so they can kind of do it all at once. Those ones lay out a little bit easier from traffic perspective, so.
And did we finalize the power line change on 19th?
We did, we're moving forward. They're looking at an undergrounding the power line through there, so.
They were taking a brunt of the cost on that, if I recall right.
They were, I don't have those numbers in front of me. I believe it was a neighborhood of $50,000 or $60,000 as the local share of that.
Okay.
And they were the brunt of it, certainly.
Awesome, thank you. City commission updates,
None at this time.
council updates, Tim,
Nothing today, thanks.
Jill,
nothing today, thanks.
Alex,
Nothing tonight.
Jeff. All right, then I'll give a couple. Huge success on the Monster Dash. We talked about that at our last council. Weather was amazing. Turnout was amazing, both for the 5K and the trick or treating. I don't know if you've speculated how many people were there, but
It was close to 1,000.
close to 1,000 people. Really cool, great weather, so I think that helped. And then the other great thing this past weekend, Saturday, the Historical Society did a veterans brunch at the community center. They had over 100 people that showed up for that, for the brunch. So a couple of great things happening in our community. And Veterans Day this Thursday, I know the school's also doing a ceremony for that. So that is all I have, and I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.